The people who support Donald Trump are highly motivated, and most of them showed up to vote. Although some of the people that attacked the Capitol actually didn't vote, which is like
I heard, yeah,
ridiculous. Sorry, dude, you didn't vote and you're storming the Capitol. Like, go to Plan A before you go to Plan.
Storm your house.
And, yeah, seriously, storm the paper you need to fill out to get registered. You dipshit. Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Alyssa, do you have a filter on? You look like a cat.
No, Erin, that's just my face.
Oh my gosh. I wish that I had a cat face. That would be so cool. By the way, when you saw that video the other day, did you, like, how hard did you laugh? The video, just for people who aren't familiar, there was a video of a Zoom courtroom appearance where one of the lawyers had a filter stuck on his Zoom where he appeared to be a cat. How hard did you laugh when you saw that?
Erin, I laughed so hard for so many reasons. First, the fact that the guy was like the guy with the cat face on, which I found out. Did you hear the story behind it? How it happened?
His secretary did it or something?
His secretary's daughter added it, and neither one of them knew how to get it off. And so anyway, but when he's standing there with the cat face, and the cat face is moving because it's a filter, he's just like, I am not a cat, but I'm ready to proceed. I fucking died. I've died. I might have peed myself a little bit because it was so funny.
I laughed so hard that I needed to take my inhaler. I normally take my inhaler before I do physical activity, but I laughed so hard that my lungs were like, I can't breathe anymore, and I needed to medicate.
And I love that they interviewed the cat man on CBS this morning with Vlad Duthiers, and Vlad was like, tell me what you think about this. And he's like, I'm glad we could all use a reason to laugh. I'm glad I brought some laughter to people.
That's great. What a good attitude.
What a good attitude, but also I'm like, God, I have to disable that on my phone, make sure it never happens.
Oh, I mean, I would think it was awesome if that happened accidentally, especially because the cat's eyes moved with his eyes.
Yeah, they kept going. It was so funny. It was like paranormal. It was like a crazy movie. It was awesome.
It was so good. We have a fair amount of news to get to today, but let's start with the news of the week, which is the second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. So on Tuesday, the Senate convened to begin the second impeachment trial of the president, Impeachment 2. Alyssa, what do you think the sequel to the impeachment should be called? Impeachment 2? Not Electric
Impeachment
Boogaloo.
Plus.
Impeachment Plus.
Yes, the Boogaloo. Impeachment 2, the Boogaloo Bois.
Yeah, it actually literally is the Boogaloo, which, finally that title is not ridiculous. House impeachment manager Jamie Raskin of Maryland, who is the lead impeachment manager, gave some pretty stirring speeches on Tuesday. I've heard them played, like the video. They opened with a video that was like 9 or 10 minutes long. That was a super cut of all of the lowlights of that day. And I've seen that played over and over in a lot of media. Also, I've seen Raskin's speech where he was talking about his personal experience played a lot. Alyssa, what was your reaction to Raskin's presence as the lead impeachment manager?
Now, look, I mean, we've talked about how I just kind of like love the theater of all these different things of like, you know, how it all unfolds. I was genuinely moved, like, and more emotional than I thought I would have been rewatching it all, because, you know, the one thing that no one has really done since January 6th is put it in chronological order of the superimposed of what was happening. And they didn't have timestamps or anything like that, but it was chronological. And you see, as everything's happening, they show what Trump is tweeting as it's happening. And it is just, there is some footage that we had not seen before, that had not been widely shared on the news. I mean, I thought he did an incredible job. I thought that part of what made his opening so powerful was the personal story he shared, that he had buried his son the day before, that his kids and his son-in-law were there in the chamber with him. And I just think they did a great job.
Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, 44 Senate Republicans still voted that this impeachment proceeding was unconstitutional. 6 Republicans switched sides. Cassidy, Collins, Murkowski, Romney, Sass, and Toomey. A few of those are retiring, so they're waiting till, you know, they're on their way out of the elevator to leave their fart. So what do you make of the fact that it seems like Republicans just completely don't care about anything except protecting the former president's interests?
The one thing I found sort of heartening was the interview that Bill Cassidy gave, where he said he actually did go in, senator from Louisiana, a Republican, saying that he did actually go in with an open mind and was persuaded by the case the Democrats made. The way they laid it out, he did see it as constitutional. And so, it's so hard to hold out hope that Republicans are going to grow a conscience, which is why the sort of very disingenuous media commentary over whether Biden's bills will be bipartisan. It's like, the fuck do you mean by bipartisan? These people can't even say that a man who incited a riot should be impeached. They can't even say it's constitutional. So it's just, none of it feels very on the level.
Yeah, it really doesn't, especially, after the performance of the former presidents or the former social media influencers, defense team yesterday or on Tuesday, which was embarrassingly incoherent. Just completely they could have just showed up and burped the alphabet and been more convincing. And honestly, they probably would have lost 0 Republicans also. It just seems like they don't care. They don't really. And the thing that really gets to me is a lot of these Republicans in the Senate really want to run for president and have hidden that desire with very little effort. And so why wouldn't you use this opportunity to come across to the American people like somebody who is principled and brave? Because honestly, I think that a lot of Republicans know what the right thing to do is, but they're just not doing it because it's hard. I think that it would be a great opportunity for a Republican who has no soul but had political ambitions to be calculating and choose to move to convict the former president, and also, in the light of that conviction, voting to bar him from running for office again. That can only serve people with presidential aspirations well. Look, if I'm wrong, I will admit this, but President Trump is not a young man. And part of he's not a young man. He eats trash and doesn't exercise. And he's had a disease that has long-term impacts to the cardiovascular system that scientists haven't really studied that much. So we don't know if he's experiencing these debilitating long-term effects of having COVID serious enough that he had to be hospitalized. Why would Republicans put their political futures with this person? Yeah, maybe their constituents are leaving mean comments on their Facebook pages. Yeah, maybe they're getting a bunch of, threats from people who say that they're going to do bad things to them. But guess what? I was a feminist blogger in the year 2012, and I've taken so many threats. I've gotten so many threats from people who are just completely gross trolls. And you know how many times I've actually been attacked? 0 times. 0 times. People who threaten you online, for the most part, are leveling empty threats at you. I think that senators and members of the House and Republicans who have very little digital savvy are taking saber rattling by keyboard warriors to be something that they should actually be afraid of. And the reality is that's not reason enough to be a coward. Be brave. You got elected to be fucking brave. And I just don't have any faith in their ability to be brave.
And not only that, Erin, but I think the thing is, if you were complicit in something that ended with very bad results, wouldn't you try to fix it? Do you know what I mean? All these dickheads were complicit in what Donald Trump January 6th wasn't caused on January 6th. It started before the man even became president. And so he has been building up to this, and they stood there and they let it happen. And they knew that all of his rhetoric, all of his racism and bigotry and hate speech was never going to end anywhere good. And guess where it ended? A fucking Les Miserables type scene unfolding at the United States Capitol. And you'd think that they'd be like, shit, I sat back and let all that stuff happen. And like, if I don't do this, I shouldn't be in my job. And instead they're like, yo, we created a monster that's turning on us. We just got to lay low.
Yeah. Can I pitch a title for the Les Miserables that we saw? It was more like it was like Les Deplorables.
It was Les Deplorables.
Les Deplorables. It was just like, it was gross. And, you know, watching the video that Raskin played before the proceedings started as part of his opening argument was really upsetting. You know, really upsetting. Really, and there's like nothing that is going to convince these people. And here's the thing. I've been thinking, and we had a kind of text exchange about this. You said half of Americans voted for Donald Trump, and I said half of voters, half of people who cast ballots voted for Donald Trump. And if you take the number of people who voted for Donald Trump in the last election, it's like 23% of the American population. It's not that many. The people who support Donald Trump are highly motivated, and most of them showed up to vote. Although some of the people that attacked the Capitol actually didn't vote, which is like,
I heard, yeah,
ridiculous. Sorry, dude, you didn't vote and you're storming the Capitol? Like, go to plan A before you go to plan.
Storm your house.
And, seriously, storm the paper you need to fill out to get registered, you dipshit. I think that even though it might feel right now that we are in a time when there's a depressing number of people, it's not the majority. You know, the majority of Americans do not want the Capitol storm. The majority of Americans do not want people like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul calling the shots. The majority of Americans don't want McConnell in charge of the Senate. It's like, this is a dark moment in our history, but there's more of us than there are of them. And the key is for us to just stay engaged and stay with it, I think. Even though it's exhausting and it sucks.
Got to be there's the tortoise and the hare, and we just got to be the tortoise in this one. Just got to keep going.
Got to be the tortoise. Just don't get flipped on our backs.
No.
That's dangerous.
Low and slow.
Like scrambled eggs or roast pork. I'm really hungry, Alyssa.
Me too. I'm so hungry. I texted my dad to get me a bagel.
Oh, I wish I lived close enough so that my dad could drive by and fling a bagel at me. Today, we are so excited to welcome Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. She currently serves Connecticut's 3rd District and has been there since 1991. And she's the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, a founding member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and a lifelong advocate for women's reproductive rights. How refreshing. Welcome, Congresswoman DeLauro.
Thank you. Excited to be with you guys. This is great.
Yeah, we are excited that you're here because we have an exciting thing to talk about with you. Last week, you and friend of Hysteria, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, reintroduced the Family Act, which was first introduced in 2013. So can you tell us what the bill seeks to accomplish and why you think now is the time to push the legislation?
I would like to use myself as an example about what paid family and medical leave means. I think it was 1986. I was chief of staff for Senator Chris Dodd. I was about to make the transition from the congressional staff to the campaign staff because it was his second reelection effort. So I had not been feeling well and nothing. I've been going back and forth to doctors, etc. I go that day, and I am told that their belief is that I have ovarian cancer.
Oh my gosh!
So, and I actually went through the day. I don't know how we did it because I said nothing to him, that day, but got through it. It was when you get a cancer diagnosis, you stop thinking. You don't hear. You just don't hear anything except your own concern with your mortality. Long and the short of it. So the next day I went to see him. And because they told me that I had to be in the hospital, this was like a Thursday, I had to be in the hospital on Sunday. So I went to him and I said, look, this is the story. I said, look, I don't know if I am coming back. I said, but I want you to know I have to go off. This is what Chris Dodd said to me. That's what I want to get to and why the value of paid family and medical leave. He said, Rosa, nothing to worry about. Your job is there. Your paycheck is there. We will wait for you to come back to begin the campaign. Just go and get yourself well. Now, I was a staff person. I was not a member of Congress. We had 3 kids at various stages of schooling, etc., how to pay the bills or anything like that. I didn't have to worry about anything like that. My employer said to me, go get well. And he later introduced family and medical leave unpaid, but it was that I could get the care that I needed, and I could and at the same time not be consumed and worried about how we were going to make it and how we were going to do this. Just go get yourself well. I will fast forward very, very quickly. 3 years ago, my mom at age 103 went into the hospital. She was ill in the last days of her life for 6 weeks. I spent every single day with her. 6 weeks. I was a member of Congress. No one said to me, Rosa, sorry, you can't come back on the job. Your paycheck isn't coming. So it should not be only for staff of congressional leaders, or it should not be members of Congress. Everyone should have the opportunity to be able to take care of their own health and the health of their families without having to suffer the loss of a job or a paycheck. That is what the paid family and medical leave bill is about. That's what Senator Gillibrand and I have been working on since 2013. And you know what's very exciting? We're going to get it done. There's a Biden administration that is going to get it done. It's what they believe in. It's the values. And, you know, especially now for the pandemic, think about it. Stay home. Don't go to work. You're out of a job, so you have no other choice. Your kids can't go to school. They're, you know, but you have no source of income. So right now, I mean, the moment has caught up with us in a very profound way to be able to get this done. I'm sorry I took so long, but it's the stories that make this real, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The absence of any proper paid medical or family leave disproportionately affects women and women of color.
Right.
How will the Family Act work to directly address that issue?
It's available to everyone, and that you do not have to leave your job. We now have it so that it is, you know, mandated, so that employers have to do it, and the cost is shared. It's like Social Security. And it winds up being $1.50, $2 a month. It's you put in the amount every month. Your employer puts that in the same way. So it's a shared responsibility, employer and employee, which goes into a trust fund and then is used, to pay it out. You can't get more than 12 weeks. You're at 66% of your salary. It's been a pleasure to work with Senator Gillibrand. We've kind of worked out all the bugs, et cetera, so we can move forward. And we believe it's the gold standard in trying to move forward.
And Congresswoman, you just referenced Social Security and compared this to Social Security. When Social Security was enacted, how many seniors were lifted out of poverty because of Social Security?
90% of seniors lifted out of poverty, which is really extraordinary. And what's so wonderful about this time, and you all are students of the institution, it has such strength in making a difference and giving people a better chance at a better life. That's what we're about. That's what this institution does. And you watched it when I talked about lifting 90% of people out of poverty. And you spoke about women. Women are usually the caregivers. Your kid gets sick, who stays home? You know, if there is a choice, you stay home. And so this is transformative for women and women of color in particular. And as I say, what's so critical now is the opportunity is there to make these things happen. you know. It's like when the first family and medical leave bill, Chris Dodd put that in every year, lost it every year, was vetoed by Bush. President Clinton comes to the fore, you know, signed the bill, trying to get equal pay for equal work, or the Fair Pay Act. Lilly Ledbetter, first bill that President Obama signs, the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Elections have consequences, and we're going to march through the door on these efforts that we've been trying to do for so many years.
In addition to the Family Act, you, along with a few colleagues, have introduced the American Family Act, which seeks to expand the child tax credit. So what are the vital components of the bill, and who was being left behind? And if passed, what changes would we see to problems like child poverty?
Well, the American Family Act, and this is a piece of legislation in the House authored by myself and Congresswoman Del Bene of Washington State, and in the Senate with Sherrod Brown and Michael Bennet. There is a child tax credit in place. So there's a structure in place for the child tax credit, and one of the only sources of investment in children and in families and their economic wherewithal. You know, the United States is exceptional and admired in so many ways around the world. But on the issue of ending childhood poverty, we are last in the world. That's not something that we have done. So, but the existence of the child tax credit, and you asked who was left behind, 1/3 of children with the current child tax credit are left behind. And they are mostly Black children and Latino kids. So why are they left behind? Their families make too little money in order to be able to participate. These are rural families, families of veterans, minimum wage families, and who are most of the minimum wage workers? Women. And families where there's a large number of children. So what the Family Act has done is, what we are going to do is we make it refundable. We capture that 1/3. So they will now be a part of a child tax credit. We increase that $2,000 credit as for kids under 6. We then provide $3,600 per child. For kids over 6 to 17, it's $3,000. It's just like a child allowance, which will, and I'll give you the statistics because that's what's critical. Over 1/2 of Black children will be lifted out of poverty. 40% of Hispanic kids, 61% of Native American kids, Asian Americans, it's about 40%, white kids, about 40%. So we will be able to lift almost half of children out of poverty. It's like going back to the Social Security piece. It's a transformative piece of legislation that will lift millions of kids out of poverty. And we're there. You know, both of the issues that you have mentioned, you know, how many years ago, guys, where they said, yeah, this only affects women. It was on the fringe. Now these issues, paid family and medical leave, child tax credit, are the center of public discourse. And we are there. The president has put this in. It was in his tax policy, and it's now in the first COVID relief package, which is going to pass in the next, at least in the House, in the next a couple of weeks. So
great.
That is very exciting, and we are very optimistic.
Yes.
Switching gears, you are the newly appointed chair of the House Appropriations Committee. And for those listening to us who don't know, this is actually a job you sort of have to campaign for.
Yes.
And you campaigned on restoring earmarks, eliminating federal prohibition on abortion funding, and addressing disparities in federal funding for minority and disadvantaged communities. Can you explain to listeners what this means and what perspective you will bring to this incredibly powerful job?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm just so honored. Really, it's for me, you know, it's, if you think about your career and you know what are the the shining lights, or the capstone, if you will, of being chair of the Appropriations Committee is that's what it is for me. And very quickly, anecdotally, when I first came to the Congress, I sat in a room for orientation, and the person delivering the orientation session was Congressman David Obey from Wisconsin. And David was speaking about the budget and the appropriations process. And I was sitting at the end of the table. And I got to tell you guys, because I'd never run for political office before, I sit there, and I don't know if your show will take this, but I said, holy, you know what? I am.
Oh, you can swear all you want, Congresswoman.
I said, holy shit, I am in so far over my head. What have I done? I don't belong here, And how will I ever be able to speak to a David Obey? Long and the short of it, he became one of my best friends, and started me on the trek. He said, you belong on the Appropriations Committee anyway. But $1.4 trillion goes through the Appropriations Committee, and the effect that it has on people's lives every single year. If we don't pass appropriations bills, the government shuts down. So the effect that it has on some of the efforts that you mentioned, because within the subcommittee on labor, health, and human resources is the issue of the Hyde Amendment. And denying, and it's very discriminatory on being able to allow low-income women, and again, mostly women of color, are denied access to abortion, and just because they're low-income women. And it's a very discriminatory. And so when we write the bill this year, the labor HHS bill will be written without the Hyde Amendment in it. So do I think it's a slam dunk? No, we will have to, fight for it, et cetera. But we also, with appropriations, I am going to very much want to bring back, now they're called community-based projects or earmarks. We had them, and they were very, very valuable. Were they abused by some? Yes, no question. But we are going to build in the kinds of guardrails, safeguards, the financial certifications that say members of Congress or their spouses or children do not have any financial interest, with those guardrails, and working on that right now. So it's a work in progress to try to move forward on it. The power of the appropriations bill is, whether it is job training and making that available, whether it is mental health services for people, whether it is Head Start, Pell Grants, you think of every aspect of your life. It is about conservation. It is about agriculture and food stamps and nutrition programs. Every aspect of our lives is contained within the 12 subcommittees of the appropriations bill. And again, some people don't know what it is about. And we've got to learn, I will tell you, to talk about it in terms of its consequences on people's lives. It's not about, it's $2 billion above the president's budget, $1 billion below. Who cares about that? It is what it means for opening the door to the services you and your family need. So I'm so excited about going forward with this. It's a challenge, but damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Congressman Obey was my parents' representative. He was my rep. He was my rep growing up. I know he was really beloved in that neck of the woods. So we like to end our interviews here at Hysteria on a light note, and I have to say we love the purple streaks in your hair. And during COVID, did you have to learn to do it yourself? And what tips would you have for someone who is going to try out a new hair color during this pandemic?
First of all, do it. Do not be risk averse. Jump off the bridge, dive in the water, whatever it is. It is so much fun. It's been several years. It was several years ago. And I said to my staff, I'm going to go and I want to get a purple streak and so forth. Well, I thought that they were going to collapse. You're going to, what people are going to say and so forth. Well, they love it as much as I do now. No, during COVID, when it grows out to like a light violet color. Okay, this is more information than you wanted to know.
No, this is what we want.
We want all this.
People actually thought that then I just did it with a violet color. No, I was afraid to do it myself. I really was. So I waited and waited and waited until I could go, and with mask, etc. That it was acceptable then. The places were open and so forth. So I'm reminded, everyone's mother is like this. My mom was 103 when she passed away, and she was living with us. And in her later years, if I would go out of the house and she would just say, "Do you really want to wear that?" With this notion. And I knew what she meant, but God love her, she didn't see my hair, purple. I guess she did at the outset, and she would just say, "Why do you want to have purple hair? Why?" I said, "It's fun. I love it, and I'm never going back to just the straight brown."
Do you have a choice for what color you'd go to next, or are you going to stick with the purple?
No, I like it. I very much do it. Often, sometimes, it comes out a little bit different. Sometimes it's more reddish and purple, or sometimes it's bluish. But no, I love purple. That's my color of choice. My campaign colors, when I first ran 30 years ago, everybody said you need to do red, white, and blue. Later for that, I love the flag. Don't misunderstand me. But my colors were red and purple. So it's a favorite. So
Love that. I love that. Also, I've had approximately 2 sips of this cup of coffee, and I feel like I've drank the entire thing after this
Me too.
energetic
Go.
and optimistic interview. Thank you so much, Congresswoman DeLauro. Good luck with everything. We're keeping an eye on what you guys are up to, and we're really excited.
And you're there, you're advocates for all of these great efforts that we can move forward on. And also, Washington, the window is only open for a short period of time. So let's go. Okay, thank you so much. Wonderful being with you.